Welcome to Our College, Your Voices. I'm your host, Kara Monroe. In today's episode, we're going to take a deep look at the current state of where the college is in relation to diversity, inclusion, and equity, and take a look ahead at what's coming next. I'm really pleased to have with me my guest, Doran Moreland. Hi, Doran. How are you today?
Hey, Kara. How are you?
I'm all right. Would you introduce yourself to our listeners, please?
Absolutely. Doran Moreland, Executive Director, Statewide Diversity and Community Engagement. And I work in systems office, but I also work with our chancellor in Indianapolis, Dr. Kathy Lee.
Right. So you have a sort of a split position between the two. Can you talk a little bit more about sort of what your role entails here at Ivy Tech?
Sure. I see myself as an advisor to the president on areas of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Because I'm a person, just one person doing this work, I've learned to collaborate with colleagues from every focus area throughout the college, every functional area throughout the college. So everything I do is very collaborative, and it's never a one-person show. It's always a team effort.
I really appreciate that approach to collaboration. And I know, I'm not sure exactly where this episode will air in relationship to our strategic plan episode that we'll release after the strategic plan update, because we might drop that in as a bonus episode. But one of the pieces of feedback that I've heard, and I know you and I have talked about a couple of times, is that when the strategic plan was originally written, inclusion is one of our core values. So in our mind, it really overarched everything we do at the college. But a lot of people want a more direct connection to it in the strategic plan. Can you talk a little bit more about sort of what you see as the next thing in that area?
Absolutely. So you and I believe were a part of that first team who worked very intentionally. In fact, most people throughout the college had an opportunity to touch and see the plan as it was under development.
Right.
And I really admired the process we went through in developing that plan because it was a great exercise in inclusion. A lot of different voices from folks from all different focus areas throughout the college. But to get to your point, I can tell you that we had the best of intentions when we were developing the plan and trying to allow our themes around diversity, equity, and inclusion to sort of permeate all 7 goals of the plan. With that said, there has been some concern about there not being a more specific language around those themes. And I have to admit that over time, I somewhat agree with those criticisms. So we have done a very good job of capturing feedback, again, from all different areas of the college. We've also engaged in the hub analysis for diversity, equity, and inclusion. And what we've decided is that we're not necessarily going to hub our functions in diversity, but what it did provide for us is a record for feedback from all around the college on themes that should be touched on. And so now we do have an opportunity to revisit the plan and try to implement some of the things that we've learned during all the listening that took place during the hub process.
And you've been with Ivy Tech for a little over 2 years now, is that right?
It's been about 3 years.
About 3 years.
Correct.
And so what do you see as the next things for us to take on as an institution, to grow as an institution that not only has inclusion as one of our core values, but truly embraces diversity, equity, and inclusion?
I'm really excited about the direction that the college is headed in this area. I've been a part of work in professionalizing the role of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So as it stands right now, you have me who carries this title and does this work full time, and then each of our campuses has an individual who has stepped up to carry the flag for diversity, equity, and inclusion on their campus. And I can't thank those individuals enough for their willingness to do that work. However, what we've discovered during the hub analysis is that there's really a need to professionalize that role. And that means getting that individual the tools and the training that they need to be seen as a consistent leader in several areas, and working with students from historically underserved backgrounds in training around sensitivity training. So things like implicit bias training, and just other training opportunities to help our employees and students interact better and more effectively with each other. And then finally, as a person who can provide consistent support to HR in our efforts to develop to recruit the best and brightest individuals from diverse backgrounds from around the world. Those are the three pillars that we are going to incorporate into the diversity role. And you can expect to see this new, beefed up, professionalized version of the diversity role starting on our C1 campuses, we hope in the spring of 2019.
Excellent. Excellent. I know that you've been doing a lot of work around the implicit bias training specifically, and that really interests me because I think that's an area people are just not comfortable sort of talking about really difficult issues like race and ethnicity and nationality and all of those sorts of things. Can you talk a little bit more about maybe if somebody isn't comfortable with that, a couple of easy tips somebody could do for how do you start a conversation like that? Or how do you create a safe space for a conversation like that?
Kara, I appreciate that question. And let me start more broadly on the topic of training first, because we haven't, as a college, had a standard measure of training around diversity, equity, and inclusion until now. We are now in the process of adding a brand new training protocol within Ivy Learn that's going to focus on areas of implicit bias, respect and appreciation of diverse backgrounds. And that's going to also roll out hopefully this spring. And I see that training as really sort of the baseline sort of level of for the college, so that we're all sort of using the same terms, given the same expectations around this area. There will, on top, in addition to that, the e-learning, be deeper, more in-depth training opportunities certainly for the professionalized diversity representatives that I mentioned earlier, but also for other staff and faculty who would like to explore some richer themes or richer experiences. But to get to your question, so as a member of President Elserman's cabinet, you and I both are, as you know, we've been thinking pretty intentionally around improving employee engagement. So to improve employee engagement within Systems Office, we as a cabinet have gone out to our colleagues to have very casual, intentional discussions that are, that go beyond just sort of like, mundane day-to-day work. Yeah. And I've chosen to have brief but very casual discussions about my work in diversity, equity, and inclusion and what it means to our colleagues. And every single time it's been a really, really enjoyable experience. And, and so what I would recommend is that we all take the time every now and then to sort of step out of the work that we're normally doing, or just at least step out of the mode of how we normally engage and interact with our colleagues, and just simply ask people what they think, what their observations are, how they like to see things move in a different direction. And I think that every time you send a signal to your colleagues that their opinion matters and that they're being listened to, I think that you'll find that it's a rewarding experience both for them and for you. So I guess to summarize that point, to get back to your question, it's really just a matter of taking time, showing that you are there to listen and you're concerned. I wouldn't be so worried about saying the wrong thing. I think people will see your genuine concern for their thoughts. And like I said, I think that those casual moments of engagement are rewarding both for the listener as well as for the recipient.
So, Doran, I know one of the things that you do such a good job of is talking about and highlighting some of the best practices that are going around the state. Can you share an example or two of some of the really good things that you've seen around diversity, equity, inclusion at our campuses?
I'd be happy to. Last week at One Summit, Dr. Heather Baker and I explored diversity, equity, inclusion. We talked about the current state and what we see kind of coming around the corner. And it was also a chance for Dr. Baker to share some great work that they are doing on their campus in providing a comfortable and supportive environment for students from Hispanic backgrounds. Through the leveraging of a grant from Lumina, secured what they call a Latino navigator. Her name is Graciela Spencer, and it's really yielding some awesome benefits both for current students and for prospective students. To think about this navigator, it's not so much a person there for academic support like a tutor. It's really, the focus is really more on life skills and providing a comfortable and reaffirming environment for students from Latino backgrounds. And there's also more focus on incorporating families into the Ivy Tech experience. So I just really think that it's a best practice in that Dr. Baker and her team have utilized resources from outside of Ivy Tech in the use of this Lumina grant. And I think that to the extent that we can provide very personalized opportunities, experiences, it's a great retention and recruitment strategy. And it really sends a message to students that Ivy Tech has your back. So we're doing all that we can to support that. We hope that based on the success of this program in Columbus, that we might be able to revisit, work with Lumina, and perhaps scale this up on more campuses. So really love what they're doing down there and hope to see more of it.
That's excellent. And I love the conversation about the Lumina grant because this kind of work, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of resources, and it takes the expertise of people who really know how to do it well. Are there grant opportunities on the horizon that the college is going to look at to try to advance this work?
We're always looking for new opportunities, new ways to leverage funds to support the work that we're doing. And I know that our Ivy Tech team is working so hard and resources are always limited. And so sometimes it is absolutely necessary for us to find and secure outside funding. And so I encourage you to let us know if there are resources from local foundations or other means of support. Please share those opportunities so that we can come up with a strong and structured ask so that we can help reinforce the work that you're doing on your campuses. You know, everything that we do in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion is a team sport, and it is going to take all the resources we can marshal to ensure that every student and every employee, for that matter, gets the personalized support that they deserve.
Good. Every episode ends with a call to action. Don't forget to watch out for announcements of those training opportunities that Doran mentioned. Those will be coming into your inbox sometime later in the spring of 2019. And as he mentioned, if you have grant opportunities that you'd like to pursue in your local community to advance this work, don't hesitate to reach out to him or a member of our grants team. Thank you again for joining our College Your Voices. I want to thank my guest, Doran Moreland, for sharing with us today and talking a little bit more about diversity, equity, and inclusion at Ivy Tech. Doran, thank you again.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was a lot of fun.
Good. I'm your host, Kara Monroe. You can connect with me on Twitter at KNM Tweets. Our producer is Ann Penny Valentine. Ann is on Twitter at Indy Penny. You can reach us by email at ourcollegeyourvoices@ivytech.edu. Leave us a voicemail at 317-572-5049. Our website is ivytech.edu/podcast. It is maintained by Tracy Allen. Production assistance is provided by Becky Campbell, Sarah DeWitt, and the Ivy Tech Community College marketing team. Our podcast concept was by Matthew Pittman. Theme music, recording, and post-production services, as always, provided by the incredible Jen Eads at the Brassy Broadcasting Company, who today has been on pothole monitoring duty as well. We will see you next time on Our College, Your Voices.